Hello and welcome to this presentation about the 3DSMAX Exchange Store. This presentation is going to help you to make your application ready for distribution in the Autodesk Exchange Store. My name is Kevin Van de Kar and I am a developer consulting engineer working on the DevTech team within the Autodesk Developer Network. So first we will talk about what is the 3DSMAX Exchange Store itself and how does it work. We'll look at how you can get your application ready with an install bundle, and then we'll also talk about the common Exchange Store menu, which is useful for placing your utilities in an easily discoverable place, and we'll also mention a bit about the localization strategy. So let's start with the Exchange Store. So 3DSMAX has its own Exchange Store. I'm going to just go ahead and click the link here, and you can see that it takes us to the Autodesk Exchange apps. First thing a customer is requested to do is select a store to begin, and you'll see Autodesk 3DSMAX is listed here. The 3DSMAX Exchange Store is encompassing of the 3DSMAX Design application as well. So all the apps related to 3DSMAX and 3DSMAX Design will be found in this one Exchange Store. When you enter the Exchange Store, you're going to see the apps that are available. You can do something like Show All, and you can see a listing of all the available apps that are currently available. And from a customer perspective, all they have to do is basically click one of these apps, and it will allow them to install. There are free apps as well as for charge apps. So it's your choice how to publish your app. You can make it a free app which will bring attention to your company as well as your technology, and it may bring business to you for your larger apps. If you charge for an amount, make sure that your app is fully functioning and has a good set of features for the money that you're charging. Okay, let's go ahead and install a couple of apps just so that you can see how this works. Basically, the customer is asked to click the button to download, and you have to log in with an Autodesk ID. After signing in, then you can go ahead and download the app, and you'll see it comes up in your browser's download. And then you just basically say you want to run it, install now, and it's a very simple installation process. We provide you with tools that will allow you to build this installer very easily and quickly. It's up to you to produce things like the installer documentation and that sort of thing. Okay. So I'm just going to go back and install one more. This one was installed previously, so I'll just go ahead and reinstall it. Close. Okay. So at this point now, 3DSMAX has these applications installed. Okay, so I am now in 3DSMAX, and what I'm going to show is that there is a common menu here that allows you to place your utility style plugins into a common discoverable location. So I installed the Explode Geometry and the Sketchfab tools. So this gives you a place to put single command style utilities into the 3DSMAX user interface. And it doesn't require you to provide any instructions for how to execute, because this menu will be easily discoverable by the customer. Now, if you have a larger plugin that you would like to publish, that's fine as well. If you already have a menu, toolbars, etc., or if you have a plugin that works in the standard command panel. So for example, here's an ADN sample that we have here. The modifiers are the same. If you have a modifier, anything that is specific to specific locations in the 3DSMAX UI, then you can leave it as is, because a customer who downloads a modifier, for example, they are going to know to go to the modifier panel to access your plugin. Okay? Okay, so that's the user experience side of the Exchange Store. So as we discussed there in the demo, the key point here is to make sure your apps are easily accessible and installed, and the customer experience should be seamless. So after they install your app, they should be able to go into 3ds Max and find it very quickly and easily. So again, apps should be easily discoverable by the customer. Our general guidelines for many of the products suggest using the ribbon interface, but unfortunately the ribbon is not easily customizable in 3ds Max, and in fact has no officially supported APIs. So you need to remember to place your full plugin in its normal place. Like we talked about, if it's a modifier, for example, it should belong to the modifier panel. If you already have an easily discoverable UI, that's fine. So like I mentioned in the demo, if you have a toolbar or a menu already, that's absolutely fine. And then if you have no built-in UI that's visible after the product is installed, for example, a single Max script, typically people will just say, here's a Max script, drop it in your folder, load it, which is a manual step, and then execute it, which is a manual step to find it. That makes it more difficult. So consider using this common Exchange Store menu if you have no discoverable UI already. So with the Exchange Store menu, it allows you to put a single Max script execution statement right there on the menu, so it's easily found by the customer. So scripts and utilities are more difficult, so it just depends on what type of thing, so you need to consider that, and that's why we provide this Exchange Store menu. So for example, .NET API apps and Max scripts and macro scripts are perfect examples of where you might want to consider using this common Exchange Store menu. Of course, if you have many scripts or many .NET API commands, that sort of thing, you might want to create your own menu in a similar style as the Exchange Store menu and just place it differently on the menu bar. You could, of course, also go to the extra work of creating a toolbar. So when we talk about porting, technically there should be no need to port anything for an existing app. So the main thing is to work on the UI aspect to make it discoverable. And then of course, because these are now much more available to people, we want to make sure that you know that you test your customer experience and be sure that everything works well. So test the installer. Make sure that installs properly. You might want to have a virtual machine environment to do testing with, etc. We just want to make sure that the first impression by the customer is a good one, so that it brings business to your company and it makes your products look well. Okay, so the next section is to talk about the install bundle. So there's separate documentation that describes the install bundle format. All of the app stores use the same format for this install bundle. There's an XML configuration file, and what you need to do is look at the documentation to see how this generic format is used to configure your app to be installed properly. These apps are installed in the user's program data area. So for example, on Windows 7, it's in the Program Data Autodesk Application Plugins directory. There's going to be a folder name there that will be installed called the appname.bundle, and that's the folder name. And inside that folder, that's where the application details are stored, so the application itself and any other UI elements, etc. And then this XML file that I mentioned earlier is called packagecontents.xml. So let's go ahead and switch over and take a look at that. So if you remember, I installed two products, these two products here, and both of these products have exactly the same directory structure. So I'm going to go into the ADN Explode Geometry Bundle directory, and here you'll see the package contents. So let's send that over to a text editor. And here you can see the format roughly of that XML file. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to go and find the documentation for this format so that you can configure your application. There's a lot more that you can put in here than this example provides, so you want to definitely be familiar with the format of this XML so that you exploit everything that's available there. The contents directory contains the application itself, so you'll see in this particular example there's an icon, there's a macro scripts directory, and this is kind of specific to 3DSMAX now. There's the Managed Assemblies folder, and this is a .NET application, so this DLL is going to be loaded by 3DSMAX upon start. And then there's also post and pre-startup scripts that you can configure. So in this case, there's a post-startup script that's used to create some Max script that's going to hook this application into the menu. Okay. So let's talk about this common Exchange Store menu. It's meant mainly for utility type plugins. So for example, if you have a Max script that's just running one type of thing, even if it has its own UI, that's fine, but you need to get that Max script to execute somehow. So if you just have one or two entry points into your apps, it's fine to use this common Exchange Store menu. Let's just flip over to Max and take a look at where this resides again. So you can see here that I installed two different apps. They have a little divider line, and this just makes it really easy for the customer to find your app after they've installed it from the Exchange Store. So they install it from the Exchange Store, they start up Max, oh, there's an Exchange Store menu, they can click it and they'll very quickly find what they just installed and be able to execute it. So it's useful for Max scripts, .NET API apps. You basically want to insert it into this common menu for discoverability. In order to use it, we will provide you with a macro script that will create an action that can be run from the CUI system. So I've provided a link here to the online documentation that talks all about macro scripts, so I'd advise you to read that if you're not comfortable with macro scripts already, just to understand the syntax. And the execution would be either your Max script entry point or your .NET API action. Of course, it could also be utilities exported from your C++ plugin. All we ask is that you limit your entries into that common menu to just one or two commands per downloaded app, just so it doesn't pollute that menu too heavily. Okay? So we also use a pre-made Max script to insert your macro script action into the common menu. So this predefined menu context is used to guarantee uniqueness so that the Exchange Store menu is always present and can be accessed from multiple apps and is present on the user's system in a single menu location. Okay, so there's some documentation on this as well if you want more details. So if you'd like to publish into the 3ds Max Common Exchange Store menu, please contact us. You can log a case, which is the easiest way, and just ask us for help using this 3ds Max Common Exchange Store menu, and then we'll return to you a complete example of how to do it. So all you'd have to do is replace the pertinent pieces in the code that we provide to you with your application specifics. So you'll get the predefined Max script source, and we'll also give you an example macro script to hook up to your code. And the last topic is to just cover the idea of localization. So eventually the Exchange stores are going to be supporting multiple languages. So this will give you an opportunity to provide your app in other regions. So if you want to take the time to translate to other regions, we encourage you to start thinking about that now, and the Exchange stores in these other languages are coming very soon. So if you're interested in this idea, we have a blog posting on the Around the Corner blog, and here's the direct link to the posting, that provides a complete step-by-step guide, depending on the type of application you have, how to localize and how to find all the resources that will help you to localize your app. So that takes us through the 3ds Max presentation. We wish you a great amount of luck and success with your Exchange Store applications, and you need to let us know if you have any questions or problems with publishing your app to the Exchange Store, with application-specific problems, etc. Just please let us know, because we want you to succeed, and that's what this is all about, to help you. Thank you. Goodbye.